So picture this, you're jamming with your buddies and instead of playing another forgettable pentatonic run, you lay down a solo that's so melodic and memorable that everybody else stops what they're doing to listen. That's the power of understanding how Neal Schon approaches melody in his lead playing. While most guitarists focus on speed and complexity, old Neal cracked the code on something far more valuable: how to make every note count in creating melodies that stick in your head forever. Of course, Neal can rip when he wants to, but Neal's secret isn't just fast playing. It's about 3 fundamental concepts that turn ordinary phrases into unforgettable musical moments. Now, I cut my teeth on Neal's playing. I really learned to play by listening to Journey's live album Captured and the albums after that, Escape and Frontiers. And by the end of this lesson, you'll have these exact tools in your arsenal. I'm Charlie Long. Let's play some guitar. So, what are these core concepts that can completely transform how you approach guitar solos? We're talking about chord tones and triads to actually play the chord changes, creating and developing strong musical motifs, and the emotional power of shifting between major and minor tonalities. So let's start with the absolute foundation, this thing that separates amateurs from pros, and it's a concept that most players completely ignore: playing the changes. Most guitarists learn a scale, say A minor pentatonic, and they just camp out in that one scale for the entire solo, regardless of what the chords are that the rhythm section is playing underneath. This is why solos sound generic and disconnected from the song. The solo's not speaking the same language as the chords. So Neal's playing, it's the opposite of that. His lines are deeply connected to harmony. He's constantly aware of the chord progression, and he targets notes that highlight the movement from one chord to the next. And the most powerful tool for doing this, well, triads. A triad, it's just a 3-note chord. With C major, for instance, we've got C the root, E the third, and G the fifth. These are what we call chord tones. And when you target these notes over their corresponding chord, your solo suddenly sounds intentional, melodic, and harmonically rich. Let me give you a concrete example from a lesser known but fantastic Journey track called Still They Ride. The beginning of the guitar solo is a masterclass in highlighting chord tones to produce a beautiful melody. When you learn that part of the solo, you're not just learning licks. It teaches you how to navigate the fretboard by following a harmony, not just noodling through a box. Let's break down why that sounds so melodically perfect. So the chord progression goes C, G over B, A minor, G, F, and C over E. And listen to the notes that Neal highlights. Over the C, he bends up to E, which is the major third, and thirds have maximum impact. G over B, he plays the D. Now that's the fifth of G. Over A minor, he plays C. Again, the minor third, maximum impact. Over G again, he's going to play this B. So that's the major third. The next chord is F, and he highlights an A note. Another major third, and lastly we have C over E, and he plays G to E. So he gets both the fifth and the third in there. Masterful. I remember hearing it as a kid, and I didn't know any theory at the time, but I still knew it was melodically perfect. As time passed, I learned the secret. It's those chord tones. Here's an exercise you can do to ingrain that kind of melody into your playing. Let's stay in the key of C, but we're going to simplify the chord changes to C, G, A minor, and F. kind of the don't stop believing chord progression. We can do all of this on the B string for starters, but it obviously works on any string. We're going to go through the chord changes twice. The first time we're going to play the root of each chord, so C over C. The second, which is D when we're playing C, and then we're going to bend up into the third, which would be E. So C, D, and bend up into E over our C chord. Over the G chord, we're going to play G, A, and bend up into B. Over A minor, we're going to play A, B, and bend up into C. Over the F chord, we're going to play F, G, and bend into A. Now, the next time through the changes, we're going to start on the third of each chord and play the third, fourth, and bend into the fifth. So over C, that would be E, F, and G. Over a G chord, that would be B, C, and D. Over A minor, that's going to be C, D, and E. And over F, that's going to be A, B, and C. Let me play that over the backing track for you so you can hear it in context with the harmony. Check this out. Now, once you get comfortable with this concept, start moving those shapes around the neck. Get the sound of those phrases in your ears. Then and only then you can start to expand those chord tones into longer licks. Use other notes from the scale as connectors, but always try to land strongly on a chord tone at the beginning or the end of a phrase. It'll make a massive difference in how professional your solos sound. Melodic concept number 2 is creating and developing motifs. Now, once you're starting to play the changes and your lines are sounding more connected to harmony, the next challenge is making them memorable. Anyone can play a string of correct notes, but what is the key to getting a solo to stick in someone's head? The answer is motifs. A motif is a short, recognizable musical phrase or idea. It's a musical seed that you plant at the beginning of a solo and then develop, vary, and bring back throughout. This creates a sense of structure and identity. Think about the opening to the solo in separate ways. It's not a blur of notes, it's a powerful, rhythmic, 4-note motif that's instantly recognizable. It gives the solo a hook. Neal establishes the melody. And then he takes that simple idea and he plays with it by adding an emotional bend the second time through. And that passionate phrasing totally sets up the shredding he does to end the solo. Again, masterful. This call and response technique is a huge part of what makes his playing so compelling. Maybe my favorite example, check out the beginning of the solo from Who's Crying Now. The phrasing is incredible. He plays this idea. Then he lets it breathe and then answers it with really only one change. He adds a bend in the second time through. These pauses, these responses, they give the listener time to absorb the musical ideas and anticipate what's coming next. So how do you practice this? It's simpler than you might think. Let's go back to our C, G, A minor, F backing track. And the goal isn't to noodle uninterrupted for hours. Our goal is to create one simple motif. Just 2, 3, or 4 notes with a specific order and rhythm. How about G, F, D bent up to E, and C? And play it exactly the same the first time through the chord changes. And then your only job for the next 4 bars is to evolve that motif. Can you play it an octave higher? Can you reverse the rhythm? Can you change one note or add a bend? Can you use it as a question and answer it with a different phrase? The key is to start small and don't try to compose an epic solo on the fly. Compose a tiny, memorable idea, but then see how many ways you can play with it. This single practice concept will do more for your melodic sense than hours of mindless scale running. Let me demonstrate by playing through the chord changes a few times and evolving the motif each time the chords cycle through. Have a listen. Well, this brings us to our third and last concept, shifting emotions with major, minor tonality changes. This is some secret sauce that adds incredible depth to Neal's playing. And this is how you can go from just playing correct notes to playing with genuine feeling. A lot of guitarists get stuck in one tonality, usually minor pentatonic, but music, just like life, it's got a full spectrum of emotions. And we can use one of Neal's best tricks to navigate that spectrum. Think about the solo in the Journey classic Lights. The second half of the solo starts off with Neal really leaning into a major tonality. It's bright, it's optimistic, and it feels like hopefulness. Over the chord changes B minor to G to D, he plays these double stops before playing this waterfall back and forth D major pentatonic lick. But then he immediately does a 180 by going all Albert King with this D minor pentatonic lick over the B minor and C. So now we've got soulful, burning emotion that's driven by that minor sound. But then he takes it major again to end things, and we get this upbeat resolution. There is real magic that happens when you can start to blend these two feelings in one solo. So how do you do this practically on the fretboard? Well, it starts by understanding that for every major key, there's a parallel minor key like C and C minor, or D and D minor. And you can really exploit this just using major and minor pentatonic scales with the same root. Over a major or dominant 7 chord using major pentatonic, it can sound really happy, while using the minor, it can make it sound really tough and bluesy. Neal is a master at moving back and forth between pentatonic bass licks using major and minor pentatonic of the same key. Check out the awesome second solo from Stone in Love off Escape for some incredible examples. So he bounces back and forth with the first lick over G and D being minor. And then he plays G major pentatonic licks over the C and G chords. Then he flips it. He plays major over G and D. And then he jumps up to G minor pattern 1 and he rips some minor blues lick over the C, going back to G. That's just so good. You can practice this by just getting fluent moving back and forth between major and minor pentatonic. I hope you all know that for any minor pentatonic patterns or licks that you know, if you drop them down 3 frets, they become major. So I was just in G minor pentatonic pattern 1 here at the 15th fret, and you'll notice that my index finger is on the root note G. And if I drop down 3 frets, now my pinky is on the root note and I'm in G major pentatonic. So take a simple backing track with the chords from Stone in Love: G, D, C, and G. And alternate playing simple minor and major licks over 2 chords at a time. So for the first time through, we might play minor over G and D. Now drop down 3 frets and play the same lick, but this time make sure you emphasize the major third over C and G. And the goal, it's not to think in complex theoretical terms. It's to ingrain the sound of that major and minor shift into your ears and your fingers. Once you can effortlessly flip between those 2 sounds, you've got direct control over the emotional colors in your playing. The key takeaway is this: memorable solos don't just come from faster fingers. They come from a deeper connection to the song itself. It's about serving the music with chord tones, storytelling with motifs, and expressing emotion with tonal shifts. If this helped you hear solos in a new way, do me a huge favor. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. As I like to say, work hard, play hard, have a lot of fun with that guitar, never stop learning. I'll see you soon.